never. Hey guys, it's Tara. Welcome back to another episode of Bake In, where I'm baking in my flat. Today we're going to be making some milk buns, but not just any milk buns. These are going to be pizza flavored and topped with garlic butter. Perfect. Let's get started. Okay, so to start, we're going to need some warm milk, which I've just been heating on the stove here. So it's basically at room temperature or body temperature. You don't want it too hot or you'll kill the yeast. Too cold, it won't help the yeast bloom. So we'll add that to a large bowl. And then to that, we're going to add some sugar, granulated sugar, and that is basically food for the yeast so it can eat something, if that makes any sense, so that it can bloom and be perfect. And then the yeast. And then just give those three a whisk together. And now we're gonna let this sit for about 5 to 10 minutes until the yeast is really nice and bubbly and foamy, and then we know it's ready to go and we can continue on. I actually love the smell of yeast when it's blooming and stuff, and it just means bread to me. So I'm super excited. This milk bread dough is probably one of my favorites ever. It's so soft and completely buttery and delicious. It's so good. So you just need a little bit of patience. Clean your room, do some laundry, do whatever you want. I can't even check Instagram because I'm using my phone to film. Oh, can you see that? That was super cool. It's just going, God, baking is so cool. All right, so the yeast is now bloomed and really fluffy and foamy. So we're going to add 2 eggs to it, which I've gently whisked together so it's a lot easier to mix together in the yeast. Just give this a whisk. Now that the eggs are in there, we're going to add all the flour at once as well as the salt. And salt for seasoning. I'm using pink Himalayan salt, use whatever you've got. I'm just going to mix this together. So you'll notice that I haven't added any fat besides the eggs to the dough yet, no oil and no butter. So I'm going to add that a bit later once I've got it all combined into a dough, and that way the butter will be evenly distributed. All right, so now we're going to need the dough. What I've done here is I've got a silpat, which is just like a rubber mat on my table. That way I can knead it, not worry about ruining my table or anything like that. And then I've also got, as I mentioned before, a plastic scraper to help me kind of scrape up the dough as I need to, a little bit of extra flour in case I need it as well. All right, so let's get started. So I'm gonna take the dough and just dump it right on there, and then we're just going to knead it, and you want to use the heel of your palm and just push it forward. So this is just going to work the gluten. You can see it's really shaggy right now. Guarantee you it's gonna get into a really nice and smooth ball. So because I'm doing it on this basically non-stick surface, I don't need to add much flour to it, which is good because I don't want to add too much flour. Otherwise it might dry out the buns a bit. So once it's quite combined like this, I'm just gonna open it up a little bit, and I'm gonna add some softened butter. So it's, as you can see, I can stick my thumb in it. I'm just gonna put that right in. I know this looks kind of crazy that you're putting butter on already kind of kneaded dough. Trust me, it works. We're just gonna fold this in. It's gonna get really messy, but it's so much fun, and baking should be fun, right? Feels kind of cool. So I'm gonna use my scraper because I wanna make sure I'm getting all that butter in. I apologize, it's not the nicest sound if you can hear it, but sure does feel fun. And just keep on kneading it. Promise, as you work the gluten, it's going to absorb that flour. It's all going to come together. You can already feel it starting to tighten up, which is great. So I'm loving the fact that I haven't actually added any more flour to my surface. So I know that these buns, because they have the same hydration that I started off with the milk, they're going to be really nice and fluffy, which is great. Looks like a mess at first, but it works. Magic. Baking is basically magician's work. Like our grandparents and ancestors who came up with all these recipes once upon a time are just geniuses. I might add just a little bit of flour to this, not much, just a dusting, just to kind of help me work it out a little bit more. Don't be afraid to add flour, you just don't add too much flour. As you can see, I'm just gonna push it. See, it springs back, so that means the dough is ready to rest. I'm gonna take this and we're gonna put it into a lightly greased bowl, snuggle it in, and then cover it with a tea towel or cling film, whatever you got. And then we're just gonna let this rise in a warm space until it has doubled in size. So that could take anywhere from 30 minutes, 40 minutes to an hour, depending on the temperature of your room. Just keep an eye on it because you don't want it to overproof. So if it goes over your bowl a bit too much, just below. All right guys, so the dough has risen. I'm trying to hide it so you can't see it because it's quite exciting. Wow. So it's really risen, really nice. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna deflate it just one time. Cool, so I'm gonna take this back. We're gonna bring in the handy dandy non-stick thing again. And now we're going to divide it into 10 to 12 pieces. And then what I like to do when I'm working with dough, I like to use scissors to cut it so that way it's a clean cut and doesn't pull the dough too much. I'm just gonna guesstimate here. So I'll probably do each one into 3-ish Basically, I want about 30 to 40 gram balls of dough. So some of these look a little bit bigger. I think I might actually use my scale, which I have right beside me here, to weigh them, but this just gets the ball rolling. Bring in my scale, put a piece of parchment on the surface. That's a 65 gram. Actually, I'd be able to get a lot more out of this. I think I might just do 65 grams. Yeah, let's do 65 grams, guys. Oh, that's good. 63, that one. I love using a scale for baking. It makes everything that much more precise, which is, I think, really important for baking. So go get yourself a scale. Really soft dough. It's nice and fluffy. I can already feel like you can see how easy it is to work with. So I'm going in and around 65. So some are 66, 68. Won't make too much of a difference. Perfect. So all I've got is this little ball of dough left over, which isn't too bad. Cool. So now for the filling. So we have got some grated mozzarella cheese and some chopped up pepperoni. And these are our two fillings for the pizza part of this dish. Push the dough out flat like this. And then you want to pile on lots of cheese and lots of pepperoni in the middle. And I like to use chopped up pepperoni, which I've chopped by hand, because when I eat it, I want bits of pepperoni. I don't want to bite and a whole piece of pepperoni comes out, you know? Like, what's the point then? I want it in every single bite. And then what you do is you bring up the sides to meet in the middle. And things will threaten to fall out, but you just push it in, seal it up, flip it over, and just give it a roll. And that's it. Got a little piece of stuffed dough ball ready to proof again in the skillet. So don't mind me, I'm gonna make the rest of these in the meantime. See you guys soon. All right guys, so the dough balls are all made and ready to be placed. I'm using a 10-inch skillet, which I've just lightly greased with a little bit of butter here. You can use a sheet pan, a cake tin, muffin tins even for individual ones, whatever you want, whatever you have on hand. So I'm just gonna place, I think I can place about 7 around. So we'll try to do that with just a little bit of space in between because they will continue to rise and grow as they rest. Fantastic. Cover these guys up and let them rest until they have doubled in size. That's it. I'll set this off to the side. While that's happening, I'm gonna make some garlic butter. I made it in the naan video, so go check that one out. We're just gonna use that to brush on top after, but I just want to be prepared. So let's give these guys a rest and then we'll bake them. All right guys, so the dough balls have fully risen. Ta-da! They have filled up the skillet really nicely and they're super light to the touch. So now what we're gonna do is brush them with a bit of an egg wash, which is just 1 egg mixed with about a teaspoon or 2 of water. And that's gonna make sure they get really nice and golden brown. And brush them evenly because you want them all to look quite the same and not to have too many dark spots, etc. I'm really excited to eat these. I love bread. I'm all about the carbs this time for this whole quarantine thing or isolation. Cookies, cake, biscuits, buns, pizza, the whole yards. All mine. All right, there we go. Just gonna take it back. And I've got my oven preheated to 180 degrees fan, or 200 degrees if you don't have a fan, which is about 350 degrees or 400 degrees, I believe, right? And we're gonna bake them for about 12 to 15 minutes until they're nice and golden brown. Perfect. All right guys, so I've just pulled these out of the oven, so they are really nice and hot. Woo, this thing's hot. Oh, look at those. They are perfectly and evenly browned. I'm so pleased with this. And while they're still hot, I'm gonna brush them with some garlic butter that I made earlier. Just some melted butter, grated garlic, a little bit of parsley, and I'm gonna slather it on. I used to work at a restaurant where their garlic bread was like the thing they were the most famous for. It was called pan bread. It looked like this, essentially in a skillet, and we would just douse it in garlic butter before serving it. Oh, it was the best bread ever. And I want to make sure that there's lots so that even when you pull it apart, you can dip it into the garlic butter at the bottom of the pan, and then it's perfect. It's one of my favorite dishes, garlic bread with a hint of pizza. And there you go guys, we've got some really nice, delicious, and these look absolutely gorgeous buns filled with pepperoni and cheese and covered in garlic butter. One more thing I forgot to do, which is a bit extra, and you don't have to do it, but I'm gonna really cheese this up. So what I'm gonna do is grate some Parmesan cheese right on top, really finely, just for that extra deliciousness. And it's gonna melt quite quickly into the buns as well. Pile it on. There's never too much cheese, you know? Is that such a thing? I don't know. Not my world. Say when? Never. That's what I'm talking about. Delicious, cheesy, garlic bread pizza buns. Oh yeah. All right guys, so now it is the best part of the baking day. We get to finally eat these glorious, cheesy, garlicky pizza buns. Nice and golden. It's even soaked up some of that garlic butter. Just gonna, oh, it's a bit, it's really hot. You guys just look how soft it is. It springs back up. That's what a milk bun does. It's amazing. Ready? Woo! It's all about a cheese pull and twisted, you know? They're super delicious. Pepperoni, can you see how much pepperoni is in these? It's great. Lots of cheese, lots of pepperoni, so you really feel like you're getting a bite of it in everything. That's why I chopped them up fine. Makes me really happy. So much. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Bake In, and I hope you guys enjoyed these garlic pizza buns. Stay tuned for the next episode. And as always, I'm just going to sit here and keep eating what I've baked. By the end of this bacon quarantine, I'm going to be the size of a hippo.